I'm capturing these milestone moments, but I'm also capturing love, those stolen glances that now other people get to witness. Other people get to witness your love because I have the opportunity to capture that and photograph it. And now you can show it off to the world. Because I think love should be shown off.
Welcome to the Be Well Baby podcast. I'm Dr. Emily Spaeth, founder of Be Well Baby in Portland, Oregon, and the Beyond Birth Blueprint, an online community where we support families through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and especially life with a baby. This podcast exists because I believe families deserve better than what I am seeing in my work as a physical therapist, lactation consultant, and childbirth educator. Just a quick loving note before we dive in. Everything you hear on this podcast is for educational purposes only. It's not medical advice. Every body and every baby and every season is different, and you deserve support that is personalized to you. Let's get started. I'm so glad you're here. Heidi, thank you so much for being here. I'm delighted and really excited for our conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for inviting me on this call.
Great. So let's start with how you found your way into the birth world.
So, I found my way into the birth world at a very young age. I would say, like, starting at age 5, my family asked me what it is that I wanted to do as I was young, like every parents do with their children. And my answer was working with moms and babies. I was obsessed and still am obsessed with newborns. And we were part of a larger, like, spiritual church community. And all these mothers were having these beautiful babies. And I remember, like, asking to not only care, like, hold and care for these babies, but, like, I really developed such a strong relationship with them. And they all started to really feel like a family. And I loved all the mamas and all their newborns. And so as I got older, that passion for newborns and being with mothers continued all the way until it was time for me to go to college. And I originally went to school to be a labor and delivery nurse because I thought that was like the only pathway to being around mothers and newborns. But then I realized I didn't really like being in a hospital that much. I couldn't really see myself working 40 hours a week there. So I just continued to study holistic healing, public health, human sexuality in my college, really geared around health, and eventually found out about the midwifery world and the doula world a few years after graduation. And that's when I came into doula work and took my first training in 2016.
Are you both a birth doula and a postpartum doula, or just one or the other?
I would say I'm mostly a birth doula, but I'm certified as a postpartum doula. I've supported many postpartum families, and currently I'm taking only overnight postpartum families. So I love, like, snuggling up with the newborns and tending to them, and making sure that families get better sleep.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because a lot of families are not really sure exactly what a doula does. Let's talk about both. How do you describe your role as a postpartum doula, since that's what you're doing right now, to somebody who's never worked with one? You know, a lot of people will say, oh, like, you just hire a nanny. You know, what's the difference between a postpartum doula and a nanny, for example?
So a postpartum doula is different from a nanny in some ways. A postpartum doula is specifically trained in caring for a newborn, understanding breastfeeding, understanding newborn hunger cues, supporting healthy infant sleep, supporting co-sleeping if necessary, really understands what is going on postpartum for a family in a really deep way, so that way they can care for this family that feels much more rich. And I would say there's a lot more healing that can take place having a postpartum doula by your side versus a nanny who might just kind of care for the baby. The postpartum doula knows specifically how to work with a newborn, understand more of the nuances of what a newborn needs, as well as what new parents might need in caring for such a vulnerable time.
I think what you're saying too is just the context of this very, very fresh postpartum time. A postpartum doula is their jam.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah. So what about a birth doula? If someone says, why do I need a birth doula at my birth?
Oh, that's such a big question. And what is a birth doula and why do I need one at my birth? A birth doula for me personally is having a woman by your side who understands birth and who has seen it and who is familiar with it and who knows how to coach you through it, love you through it, emotionally support you and your partner through it, and advocate for you as well. I think a lot of parents can only wrap their mind around what the birth will be to a certain extent, but once they're experiencing birth, it's a whole different world, and things can become complicated, or feelings can be very large, sensations can be scary or new. And so a birth doula is really there to normalize your birth experience as you're moving through each of the stages of birth, both for the mother and for the partner supporting the birthing person. For me as a doula, I love to support my mothers through breathing techniques, offering loving touch or like massage, hand holding, being a listening ear, really validating the mother's experience while also encouraging her, like, this is very normal, and you're like these emotions are coming up because you've made it this far, and like we just need to keep going. A lot of partners have never seen a mother in labor, and they might not understand what's going on or why it's so intense, and is it okay that it's taking a turn? And I'm there to like be that pillar of strength and grounded energy of like, everything is normal, everything is fine, even though maybe it's taking a turn in a different direction. Everyone is safe. Baby is safe. Mama is safe.
It's so helpful to have somebody there who is just there for you in a birth experience, because, you know, a nurse, an OB, even your midwife is not necessarily just there for you. And especially if you are having a hospital birth, they're in and out of your room. They're not going to be there the whole time. A doula is there the whole time. As soon as you're questioning everything, you can turn right to your doula. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for explaining that. I think some people are listening to this thinking, I know what a doula is, but also just hearing the way that you support families. Not every doula is going to provide any kind of massage. You know, different people have different things that they offer. For example, postpartum doulas. Sometimes a postpartum doula will cook for you, but not all the time. Sometimes they'll be happy to clean your house or fold your laundry, but not all the time. When you're doing interviews, I encourage everyone to interview many people, because it is so important to find the right fit. And when you talked about this, you talked about being carefully chosen, which I think is such a beautiful way to frame this. What does it look like for you when that relationship is really the right fit?
What's important for me? Well, for me, I love it when the communication feels easeful. I know that communication can feel easeful over time, and we don't really have that luxury when interviewing each other, because really it's an interview from the parent side towards me, but also me towards them. Like, are they a good fit for me as a doula? So is the communication feeling fluid? What is your intuition saying? From the parent side, can they imagine me by their side during a very vulnerable experience? When they picture all of the doulas that they have interviewed, who is the woman that's standing right by them? And that's often the right choice. Are our styles and visions aligned? I have supported all types of births, totally unmedicated, all the way to a planned cesarean, and then interventions that maybe weren't necessarily in the mix at first. So I feel like I've experienced the full gamut, and I'm happy to support all of those. At this time in my career, I really like to lean into working with families who want to really attempt an unmedicated vaginal delivery. But because of my expertise, if things were to go a different way, I would be able to fully support them in that. Yeah. So are they also looking to have an unmedicated vaginal delivery, and why? I think the real thing that it comes down to is a feeling. At the end of each of my interviews, I always encourage them to follow their intuitive hits and listen, and to think about it and imagine that person by your side, and who is that from the doulas that they have interviewed. And because it could be a great interview, but maybe there's another doula that they also resonated with. So I often can feel when they're going to bring me onto their birth team, and it's such a good feeling. And I want them to also be leaving the interview with such a good feeling too.
Yeah. I imagine as a doula, you have been a doula for many years, right? Your training was in 2016.
Yes.
So 10 years.
Yeah.
I imagine you have seen a number of births.
Yes, I have.
And I imagine that in seeing all of those different experiences, you almost have like these beautiful snapshots in your mind. And I wonder if that has anything to do with how photography came into your view and into your experience as a doula.
Yeah. I started my photography portion of my business 4 years ago. I was taking pictures of deliveries on my clients' phones or on my phones, and then sending those pictures to them. I've always seen birth photography and maternity and newborn, and I've always loved it. And I'm like, wow, it's such a powerful way to remember the moment that you gave birth to your baby, and all of the emotions and surprised looks on people's faces when they finally have their baby on their chest. And I was like, this would be such a beautiful pairing. I'm an artist. I love photography. I've done some modeling, and I've done some photography for some friends in the past when I was in my early 20s. So I decided to invest in a really nice quality camera and learn some major skills of how to photograph at a birth, because it can be ever-changing, quickly moving, lights shifting around, and so having to be like really quick on my feet. And so I started photographing births, and found that to be actually a really beautiful and perfect pairing for being a doula, because at a birth can be long and tiring for everybody, including myself. And having a creative outlet at the birth helps energize me.
That's cool.
And it helps me tune in to more of the beautiful moments, because I'm always witnessing such beautiful moments at a birth. But it's making me look harder and notice more. And so I'm able to stay awake and be more present, because I want to capture the love. I want to capture an intense moment. I want to capture a mama working really hard, pushing her baby out, and then greeting her baby.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That's sort of a little gem in there, of just this beautiful thing that came from wanting to pair your artistic abilities with your doula work. I know that you also photograph families beyond births as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like, especially as a postpartum doula? You are with this newborn in the sweetest little moments of their very, very short lives.
So earlier when you asked me how do you know if it's a perfect fit for a family? Another way is I'm looking for families who want to take the photographic journey with me, along with me caring for them as a doula and postpartum doula. They see the value in photography. They see the value of hanging milestone moments on their walls. And I love being a part of that process. So that's how I also know it's a really good fit, is like people value photography, and birth is such an intimate space.
Yeah.
Building and growing a family is such a vulnerable, intimate experience.
Yeah.
I personally think you want to be careful about who you let into your field, who you let into your life during that time. Mm-hmm. You want your closest friends and families, members that feel good to you, and professionals who can really meet you where you're at. And I find that if I can start my journey as a birth doula with them, and I'm also photographing their birth, even before birth, photographing them during pregnancy for a maternity photo shoot, and then photographing their birth, and then when they come home and are settled with baby, I like to come over about a week or two postpartum. When everyone is still feeling a bit tender and raw, I like to capture those real moments, and baby's so fresh and still very, very pink. And then hopefully having them call me back in like a year or two for family photography. And family photography is different than newborn, because newborn photography is like right after baby is born, and family photography is after their baby has obviously matured and has grown, and now they want me to capture a different milestone moment. And like, how cool would it be to have this doula that you've carefully chosen to be by your side during the most vulnerable moment of your life, also capturing these vulnerable milestone moments in your life too. You don't have to branch out and find all these different types of photographers. Like, you don't have to have a doula and a photographer. You can have them together. And so again, it's like creating your safety bubble of people who feel really good in your life. And so I want to be one of those people. I want to be walking that path with you as an artist and as a birth keeper, as a professional.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think families also, when you have a photographer that you can connect with, that feels like your photographer, you're more likely to then reach out at those milestone moments. You know, maybe it's every year for holiday photos, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's even just every few years. And then how amazing for you, Heidi, that you get to see these babies grow.
Yeah. And I do, because like, I mean, every newborn literally looks different, but to be able to see the personalities and how they change and how they start to really look like their parents.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so much fun. Kids are so much fun.
I just wanted to pop in here and say that if the Be Well Baby podcast has helped you in any way, if our team has helped you in any way, the people who find us because they heard about us from a friend, because they heard about us from a midwife or a doula or their pediatrician or their OB. And we value those connections so much. And we know that the only way for people to find excellent healthcare is for people to talk about it. So if you have a minute, please leave the podcast a review. It will help people find this podcast. If we band together and shout this from the rooftops, then we will be able to change healthcare. Thanks. I know that when I talk to families about the postpartum time, especially that first couple of weeks that you were just talking about, it's really an incubation, and like you are falling in love with each other and with your baby all over again for the first time. It's all just like so much love, and leaving space for that is so important. And what you said was that you're really watching love grow between the partners and their baby, just like I mentioned. So I would love to know, like, through your lens, for lack of a better word.
I mean, it's the perfect word.
What does that look like in practice in people's homes? I guess almost like if you're thinking from that moment where you meet the baby for the first time to the baby's going to kindergarten, you know, what do you witness in as the photographer helping families along that journey?
Yeah, that is such a good question. When I'm photographing a birth, I'm photographing the first moment a parent is gazing upon their baby and meeting their baby. And it's their first meeting. And that unto itself is like very drastic compared to like, okay, now they're bringing the baby home and the parents are feeling on edge and they're fumbling around and they haven't quite learned their baby, but they're so excited and so in love, but they're still kind of fumbling and emotional. Every newborn session I've ever been to, mothers get emotional, feel like they're not ready for a photographer to come in, and I'm like, this is actually the perfect time. So I'm witnessing them growing into parents, them figuring it out while also being totally in love, sleep deprived, exhausted, emotional, all the things.
And like not ready necessarily for someone to be witnessing their body. I feel
Yeah.
like that early on postpartum time, you don't even know your body yet. You don't really recognize her. And it feels very, very vulnerable to have someone take pictures. And in a year, you are going to be so glad you did.
Yes. And I feel like because I've been a doula for 10 years, I'm very sensitive to this time. So I really focus on helping mothers feel confident as new mothers, feel beautiful in their new bodies, and that we can really meet their newborn where they're at, so there's no pressure. I think families really appreciate that nuanced approach and understanding because I've been supporting families for so long. I'm not just a newborn photographer who's stepping in and that newborn photographer may or may not even have children. So going from birth to newborn, watching parents stepping into their initial roles as parents, and then coming back later, maybe in a few years for family photography, for me, I can tell, oh, they've settled into their role. They understand their child now. They have a family dynamic that didn't exist before that's rooted, a lot more rooted. So that's part of what I see through my lens as a photographer as I walk this journey with them. And I forgot to mention, like with maternity, they're beginning that relationship with their baby, but from the inside. And so it's like they have this relationship with their baby, but obviously it's covered up. They don't know what they're about to step into yet. So there's a little bit of like that naive, like fantasy ideas about what parenthood is going to be like, what birth is going to be like. And then they go through birth and then all of that's wiped clean and they're seeing, like the raw experience of it. And so, yeah, capturing the fantasy and the relationship they're starting to develop with their baby versus like, okay, now they're meeting their baby, now they're learning their baby, and then eventually they become very rooted in their family dynamic. So there's like a big arc.
Yeah, seeing the entire arc of their parenthood journey. I love the idea of naivete in that. I was just recently looking at my maternity photos from before my third baby was born. So it's the four of us as a family with me very pregnant with my third baby. And I remember that day feeling so just exhausted by the performance almost of like these children are not happy children right now. Like why they're not going to smile for the camera. And our photographer just did an amazing job making it seem like we had this lovely little happy family.
Oh yeah.
And you know, that's the magic of photography, right? You can have you have yourself holding a crying 3-year-old, and if you're smiling, the back of their head is there. It looks great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And photography is amazing in that way for sure. But just even the naive moments of our little family of 4 that was about to become a family of 5, and not knowing how the birth is going to go because you just can't know was it's sort of magical. And having this fantasy of who is this baby going to be, and then having a little human on the other side of it that grows into another little child with her own personality. It is just really, really powerful. And having, we take pictures on our phones all day long, right? So I would love for you to talk a little bit about what is it that you are looking for that's different than someone just snapping a photo from their phone when you are photographing a family. And everyone knows the difference between snapping a photo on your iPhone and having a professional photographer take your pictures. But most people can't really put their finger on why. What is it that you see that's different than someone else?
Like I said, I'm an artist at heart. I grew up with a grandmother who is an artist, and she really imprinted herself onto me in that way. So I feel like I see the world a little bit differently. I pay attention to the rich colors of the world, angles, perspectives that other people are not necessarily paying attention to. And as I've become more ingrained in my photography practice, like every time my partner and I go out on a walk, I'm always mentioning the colors of everything and like the lighting more than I've ever have before, because I'm really noticing things now. So I think for me, when I was a doula for 6 years before ever becoming a photographer, I was witnessing a lot. And there's a lot to witness just even at one birth. And at that point, I was probably on my 80th or 90th birth before I became a photographer. So I was able to really pay attention to a lot of nuances, a lot of stolen glances between couples in birth. When a partner cries when meeting and seeing their baby for the first time is actually my most favorite moment of the entire birth. It used to be when mother was catching baby, but now it's like when the partner witnesses the delivery, that is like the juice for me. So I like to capture that on my camera. So I think my artistic eye became refined in the birth space because there is so much happening and I've witnessed so many births. And then my background with my grandmother being an artist and imprinting that on me.
Yeah, you really are a witness in the birth room, and not only do you get to be a witness to those stolen glances, but you get to document them and then share them back with the family. And I remember someone seeing a picture of my partner looking at me. I think he was just holding my hand and smiling at me in labor, and she was like, wow, to have somebody look at me like that, and I was like, oh yeah, it's amazing that not only do I get to see this, but other people get to see these moments that were so powerful and that could have just been lost to time.
Right. And another part of my personality is like, I've always been really obsessed with relationships and love and finding my person and supporting my friends in finding good people for their lives. And I've studied a lot about relationships and marriage and even polyamory and open relationships. Like, I just love that world. And so I'm capturing these milestone moments, but I'm also capturing love, like those stolen glances that now other people get to witness. Other people get to witness your love because I have the opportunity to capture that and photograph it and now you can show it off to the world. Because I think love should be shown off. It sets good examples of what's possible, and what's actually here currently in our reality. There's so much love present. So yeah, I think for me, I pay attention to the love during any photo shoot. I pay attention to lighting, to colors, to, especially with children, oh my gosh, they are so funny. And I love capturing children in their wild, authentic, unruly selves. And parents, I think, get a little bit like shy or uncomfortable, like, oh, sorry, my kid's not being good. I'm like, no, your child is being a child, and I love it. And I always send the imperfect photos to my clients too. So of course we're going to have some posed photos, like if it's a maternity or a family photo session, it's more posed, but there's always a ton of photos where the in-between moments are quote unquote imperfect. And I also send those too, because those are also real life moments during our time together. And those are important to document too.
Yeah. Heidi, if someone is on the fence about hiring a birth doula or a postpartum doula, or even having a photographer in the room for their birth, what would you want them to hear from you? Of course, we're not biased at all.
I know, I'm so biased because my partner and I are talking a lot about children. And now I'm starting to imagine, what is it that I want for my own experience? And I definitely want a photographer, and I definitely want birth support. So I'll just say it's worth the investment. It's an investment, especially if you want someone good. So just knowing you're going to be investing in your future in a really beautiful and a meaningful and important way, and a supportive way too. I would ask someone who's on the fence to imagine their birth and only having their partner by their side as providers come and go. Are they going to feel confident when providers leave the room? And do they desire to have continuous support where this doula will be acting on many different layers on behalf of the family, not just being a witness, but being an advocate, understanding birth, understanding how to navigate complications, understanding how to communicate with providers, and to bring your voice in as a family into the birth room, knowing you have choice. And having someone by your side who has witnessed a ton of births and can normalize your experience every single step of the way, because every single step of birth is wild and requires someone being like, it's all good. So that way you can relax and pay attention to each other as a couple. Because I think my biggest role, now that we're talking about it, is I want the parents to feel like they can come together in this experience, knowing that I'm creating a very safe bubble and container. So that way they can be bonding, connecting, loving each other, holding each other through that. And I've got everything else covered.
Yeah.
You know, I'm navigating all those conversations with providers. I'm helping you know what we should do next, whether that's a labor position, rest, eating, supporting you with pushing if you're starting to bear down, and how to use your voice in the room without feeling like you have to pull away from your birth experience and each other as a couple. I want them to feel like very united and connected, and I'm just kind of protecting this space and doing all the other little tasks.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would also say, you know, of specifically photography, I think can feel very vulnerable. You know, people will say, "Oh, I don't want pictures of that," you know, but I would challenge people. And of course, like, everyone will do what is right for them, of course, but I did not have a photographer for my first 2 births.
Okay.
And I regret it. And I would challenge people to think about, not maybe even just 1, but 10 years from now, when your baby is 10 years old and they're asking about their birth experience in coming into the world, what do you want to have to show them? And I wish I had more pictures and videos of all of my birth experiences. I wish there was like a documentary crew.
Yeah.
But I'm a special kind of person. So also know what kind of person you are, because maybe your answer is absolutely not. I don't want to show them pictures, but I want to know the story. So I always encourage my clients to write everything down and maybe write it down more than once.
Yes.
Because as you tell the story unfolds differently and tweaks each time, and your doula can fill in some of the story that's missing as well. In a lot of cases, your partner can fill in parts of the story, and it can just be really beautiful. This is like a peak experience, you only get to do this a very few number of times in your life.
Yes. And speaking to the birth story, something that I also offer as a doula is I come over to my client's home and we process their birth story. So I have the mother and the partner share their birth experience, and I am there to fill in the gaps. I'm also there to hold them in any emotional releases or answer any questions, and also just to hear if there was anything that was really challenging and they just want to feel heard. I'm there to really hear it without judgment, and to love them through what their experience was and what they're navigating presently, being in the early postpartum window.
Yeah, that's so valuable. I remember doing that with my first doula, and my midwife also came over and we did the same thing. And it was so valuable to have that space to retell the story that I had already retold 100 times, but with people who were there with me and really could see all of the moments for what they were and fill in those gaps. I think that's really helpful and important and beautiful.
It is, absolutely.
Oh, Heidi, thank you so much for your time. This was lovely.
Thank you so much. This is such a rare treat, and I appreciate getting to know you behind the scenes and getting to speak with you today.
Of course, Heidi. Will you tell us the best way for people to find you and get in touch with you?
Yes. So you can find me on my website, groundedheartsdoula.com. You can also find me on my Facebook, which is just Heidi Long. And you can find me on the Birth First Doula website. I am one of the doulas through that agency, and also Alma Midwifery has me on their recommended doulas part of their website too.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for your time today.
And if anyone would like to work with Heidi, be sure to click the links in the show notes to connect with her. And remember, when you are looking for a doula to work with, there is a doula that is the right fit for you. So just keep looking until you feel that confidence that you have found the right one. Audio and music production by the amazing Peter Gary, with Lillian Ewert managing all scheduling and operations of Be Well Baby, including this podcast. Thank you both for making this happen. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and I'd love for you to follow us on Instagram at BeWellBabyPDX or visit BeWellBaby.org to book a time to chat with us. And if this episode helped you, please send it to someone who's pregnant, postpartum, or someone in your life who wants to support you better. No one should have to do this alone. Welcome to Be Well Baby. You're in the right place.